everyone. My name is Tara Lynn Hughes, Senior Vice President with TD Bank. We're so proud at TD to be the presenting sponsor of Conversations at the Royal. This speaker series is about bringing critical mental health tools, resources, and care to people in need. Never has this been more important. Living through a pandemic has put challenges in front of Canadians that we've never experienced. And every day at TD, I can see it's testing the mental health and emotional well-being of our employees, our customers, and our communities. That's why conversations around wellness and mental health must be a priority. As always, the Royal Ottawa Foundation is standing tall, and I want to thank them for organizing this important series of virtual monthly events. I believe the Royal and TD share common goals, and that's to advance better health and contribute to open, inclusive, respectful, and dignified conversations that promote recovery and break down stigma. Today and every day, we'll continue to stand together, support each other, and be resilient as we move forward in 2021. On behalf of all of us at TD, thank you for your support and for participating in these very meaningful conversations. Take care, everyone, and be well.
So welcome, everyone. I am Raj Batla from the Royal Ottawa, and welcome to a special Father's Day edition of Conversations at the Royal, presented by TD. I would like to begin with a sincere thank you to our sponsor, TD, for their generous support of this important series. Unfortunately, our host, Ian Mendez, is unable to join us today, and I will be stepping in, and the show must go on, and that's what Ian would have wanted. I would like to thank Ian for all of his hard work over the past year to our Conversations at the Royal series. I'm Raj Batla. I'm the Psychiatrist-in-Chief and Chief of Staff at the Royal Ottawa. Tonight, we will be talking about a topic that I think is not spoken about enough. That is men's mental health. Men and boys are systematically taught not very much to talk about their emotions, which makes it hard to acknowledge when they need help and ultimately reach out for connection and support. Tonight, we're going to look at various aspects of these issues with a great lineup of speakers. I know we're going to learn a lot, and thanks for being here. A few of the housekeeping items. For those of you who are new to our platform, I would like to quickly review a few key aspects of the platform which you are experiencing this evening. If you find that the video is delayed at any point during the event, simply refresh your browser. That's F5 on your keyboard. That should do it. Below the video player, you will see some additional information you might find interesting or helpful. There are also bios about our special guests and some helpful resources. Please note we are live. Please ask questions or post your comments in the chat box on the right side of your screen. We will do our best to push as many questions as we can to our speakers. And the last 15 minutes of this event will be dedicated to answering your questions. As a quick disclaimer, the contents of this broadcast are intended for educational purposes only. The speakers are unable, unfortunately, to address any emergency or crisis requests during the Q&A. Please note that if you are in distress, please click on the Resources tab located on the left side of the screen for some helpful links. Now, with the housekeeping details out of the way, we will proceed with our presentation. I will be starting out with a short slide presentation about the importance of play. So if we can have the next slide, please. Thank you very much. By the way, subbing in for Ian is quite the task, and I will note that men are not that great at multitasking. And for your information, neither are women. So thank you very much to our crack learning and development crew to help us get through this with Ian on the sideline. So thank you very much. So starting out with Let's Play, there's something very unique, and I hope we have a chance to unpack this a bit further in our discussion, about the rough and tumble style of play that is quite unique to fathers. It doesn't mean it solely exists with fathers, but it is quite unique. And this phenomena occurs not only in our culture, but cultures across the globe, and actually in several animal species. And it really does serve an adaptive function that is very important to the development of boys and the development of girls. If I can have the next slide, please. So why don't we go with the slide and the video, and I'll explain a little bit more. Oh, if we can go backwards to the video, please. Thank you.
Daddy. Daddy.
Dad?
Dad.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. If we can go to the next slide. Oh. Yeah, so just to give you a bit more information about the video. So you saw several scenes of both play, affection, connection. And I think what you also saw is some of that sort of a swinging around type of play, physical play. And it's a really important thing for boys and girls. A few notes in particular, it's fun. I certainly enjoy still aspects of play to this day, and I hope that never changes. Very importantly, it builds trust, which is a crucial element of all of our developments. And bringing that trust is not only important for a trust issue per se, but it actually changes hormonal levels and allows people to trust not only the intimate relationships with their father, their parents, but with others as well. Another aspect is, of course, physical activity, which is crucial to our development and the development of resilience in general. Other things that's absolutely crucial when it comes to play is the development of social and emotional intelligence. So when we play, especially the rough and tumble play, you learn what is socially acceptable, what pushes the limits of fun play, rough play, and what sometimes takes you perhaps over the edge, and you need to be pulled back to understand that was a bit too far. So how do you learn to push the boundaries, to test the limits physically, emotionally, and learn what is okay and what is not? So crucial, both in terms of play and another aspect, really important, play and the more formal play of sports can also contribute to that. What is fair? What is not fair? What is right? What is wrong? Very important aspects in our development. Another thing that's quite unique with fathers is fathers have a different way in general, I stress in general, than mothers in communicating with their children. There's a bit more of the what, why, where type of questions when it comes to fathers' interactions with kids in general. And it actually, research shows that there's improved expressive language development for a child as they experience the different type of communication with fathers. As I've also implied, the values created by play and the more formal sports creates fairness, competitiveness, which actually we all need, and the concept of doing your best and striving to do well by your teammates and others, which actually is really important as we develop both in our work lives, our family lives, and our social circles. And all of this is crucial in the development of resiliency. We're not going to talk a lot about resiliency today, but play and those interactions develop resiliency at an early age and really contribute to mitigating things in the future that affect many people, things like substance overuse, our overdose crisis, and actually things like suicide. So we won't be talking too much about suicide today, but I will point out that resiliency can be preventative when it comes to suicide. And we want to create strength, especially in our boys and men, because they are more prone to completed suicide than others. I have a very short slide to show you on that, if we can go to the next one, and we won't dwell on it, but I think it is important from a data point of view. So that's a pretty representative graph, a little bit older, but the stats haven't changed. So at all ages, boys and men, sadly, so sadly, complete suicide at a rate of around 4 times that of women. And especially the highest risk group is actually very senior men, but there aren't many senior men around, and also middle-aged men. So not to dwell on that, but resiliency and preventative mental health, really important in those aspects. So thank you for that. That's a short presentation, and we'll continue to move on with other parts of the presentation. I will just pull up the next pieces that we'll go to. And I would like to next introduce you to a video from Richard Robbins, one of the social workers at the Royal and dear colleague. He is a transitional case manager in the outpatient forensic unit at the Royal. He works with families and loved ones with a focus on men's mental health, as well as providing education and support to those that he encounters in his clinical work. Richard has been a true leader at the Royal in raising awareness and organizing fundraising campaigns for men's mental health initiatives. Richard was unfortunately unable to join us live today, but please enjoy the video that he put together. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here for a few moments to talk a little bit about what helps men in their mental health journey. I think one piece really to highlight tonight is it's easier said than done to seek support. And why is that for men? Well, men have a difficult time talking about and communicating to others about their feelings. From an early age, men, we've been conditioned to believe that expressing our feelings is out of character with our male identity. Just because we are told, or men are told, to hide their emotions doesn't mean that we don't have them. I want to highlight to be honest about the way you're feeling, to be vulnerable. You need to be honest about where you're at. In order to open up about your emotions, you need to accept them. You need to feel them. Professional support's always available, and I encourage you all to reach out to your family doctor to discuss options that would best suit your needs. But, and a big but, support doesn't just have to be from professionals. Reaching out to someone that you can trust can be that first step. Having that confidant, and I'll get back to that shortly. Also focus on things that you enjoy. Take the time to find ways to engage in activities that are meaningful to you. Research shows that men who participate in simple, pleasurable activities do show improvement with their mental health and well-being. This one I want to be able to highlight is taking care of your body and taking care of your mind. Some strategies, things that I've seen in my practice that I work on with my clients all the time is getting enough sleep. Sleep hygiene is so important. Include some physical activity as well in your daily routine and eating nutritious meals. Things to try to avoid would be tobacco, alcohol, drugs. You've heard this before, but try to decrease that use. Limit your screen time, and as well news consumption. We are bombarded these days with such negativity on the news, with COVID, getting through this pandemic, stories of war that are going on. Reduce that. That'll help reduce your stress triggers. The other focus is around mental health hygiene, meditation, mindfulness, being present in the moment. Focus on deep breathing or focused deep breathing, journaling, writing about positive experiences, and also expressing gratitude. So important. Doing good things, good deeds for others makes us feel good too. And final piece on this is focus on what you have control of, not what you don't. Also, awareness of your thought patterns. So for situations, being able to kind of catch yourself and change that negative thought, because that in itself can offer peace of mind. And challenge your biases as well concerning vulnerability and masculinity. So I want to focus now on connections, okay, and the importance of making connections with others. Having social supports, strong social supports, is so important for men. And having that go-to, that confidant, as I had previously mentioned, someone you feel comfortable to talk to open up with, that is really vital. And it's been highlighted here at our hospital in some research that has recently been published. Dr. Jennifer Phillips and her wonderful research team have found that having no confidant doubles the risk of suicide plans or attempts in males. I was actually quite blown away by these numbers, or just that statement itself in terms of doubles the risk. So if we can help men make connections, it will in turn obviously lead to better outcomes for them. Continuing on this connection topic is, if you see someone struggling, I encourage you to reach out to them, to your family, your friends, colleagues that you see struggling. Start those conversations. And on the flip side, I encourage you too to reach out to your confidant, trusted colleagues, friends, families. If you're struggling, they're there for you. Starting conversations is the last piece I want to be able to highlight before I let you go. And the Movember Foundation has coined an acronym called ALEC, A-L-E-C, ALEC. A is for ask. If you are a friend, a family member, a colleague, ask them how they're doing. Start the conversation. L is for listen. Listen without judgment. No distractions. Just be there for them. E is for encouragement. Encourage action. Take action. Try to guide them to that next step. And maybe that is reaching out to a family doctor. And C, to me, is so important. Check in. Check in with them afterwards, because that really shows that you care. I want to thank you so very much. I wish you all success in those important connections, making those important connections, and finding your way through your recovery journey.
Daddy. Dada. Daddy. Daddy.
Dad?
Daddy. Dad.
Hey everyone. Sorry for some of the technical difficulties. We have another fill-in going on. I'm going to do my best to fill in for Dr. Batla for a little bit here. And first off, I just wanted to commend Raj, Ian Mendez, for any of you familiar with him as the consummate host, and does such a fantastic job. And Dr. Raj was subbed in a little bit suddenly and last minute, and for him, he's been doing a great job too. And we had a similar chat last year to what we've been doing now, and I just think it's gotten even more important and pertinent to today's world and kind of the situation we're living in. Obviously there's the same stress and anxiety that we may have as men, as fathers, as husbands, brothers, whatever it may be, and those are exacerbated a bit based on what's going on in the world. And there are a few things that really stuck out to me in that presentation, and I certainly hope they did for you too. And certainly they were insightful, and hopefully points that we can all take away to help ourselves and also help some other men in our lives around us. And I think that's kind of the key message here today. What can we do as a group of men to not just empower ourselves to take care of our own mental health, but also to empower men who are in our lives around us. And with that, it looks like we might have Raj back. So I will hand it back to him.
Thanks, Mark. Unbelievable job. Really appreciate it. I lost my intranet. That's the way things happen sometimes. I'm back. Hopefully, if you can just help me out, Mark or others, were you properly introduced, as was Sanjay?
I don't think we were. No, we went dark there for a little bit, but again, like you said, such is life.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And that's kind of what the guys do. We help each other when we work as a team. So thank you, Mark. So I will introduce Sanjay, and hopefully I won't go dark again. But Mark, you can help me out if I do. So thanks.
Yeah.
So my pleasure to introduce Sanjay Sharma, who is the Vice Chair of the Client Advisory Council at the Royal and a volunteer peer supporter at Psychiatric Survivors Ottawa and the John Howard Society. So Sanjay spent over 20 years in the high-tech industry as a software designer before experiencing an acute episode of mental illness. Having successfully recovered from this difficult event, Sanjay speaks publicly about his mental health journey in an effort to break the stigma and help others on their road to recovery. Mark needs very little introduction. Mark Borowiecki, well known in our Ottawa community, professional hockey player in the NHL, currently, sadly not with Ottawa, but with the Nashville Predators, and is the first Ottawa native to be drafted by the Senators. So Mark's physical play has earned him the nickname Borocop, and many of us in Ottawa remember when he got that nickname. So that's a moniker he tries to live by and not rely on only on the ice, but in real life with the causes he supports, including mental health and the values he wishes to instill in his young son, Miles. So thank you both. And thank you in particular, Mark, for helping get us through my lack of internet. And maybe I'll start off a question with Sanjay. So Sanjay, on the road to your recovery, what's gotten you to where you are today, and what keeps you going?
Thanks, Raj. So, I would say one of the key components in my recovery journey has been peer support. So early on in my mental illness, I was kind of caught in a bit of a circle, or for lack of a better term, I was suffering from mental illness, yet I had a very stigmatized view of mental illness. And so, I was under the perception that, there was something unique about myself, that there was some deficiency within myself that that somehow had brought this illness to bear. And having the opportunity to sit with others who were also going through their mental health journey kind of opened my eyes to the fact that some of the struggles that I was facing, some of the things that how I was perceiving the world around me weren't unique to myself. In fact, there were many others who shared, similar struggles, and they had a unique perspective that, really spoke to me. And so there's that sense of community where you can be with others and feel like you can be authentic. You're not being judged, right? It's a safe space. And I think there's a lot in that kind of support that you receive from such a community that really kind of empowers you. So I would say that was a key component for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Sanjay. Much appreciated. And Mark, from your perspective, what kind of keeps you going, and how did you pick mental health as a bit of a calling or cause or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah. So I guess on a personal level, much like Sanjay, I've had my ups and downs in mental health throughout most of my professional career and adult life. And I think I always viewed some of these emotions that I was feeling as this sort of general idea of anxiety. And, I'm a professional athlete, a high performing athlete. I figured anxiety is just part of the job and part of life. And my anxiety got to a point where it was uncontrollable for me. I had gotten to a point where I couldn't bring it back. And that's why I decided to seek help. And it's been a process, but certainly I'm in a much better place now than I was back then. And I think having gone through that personally, I realized that, hey, if this has happened to me, it's not just unique to me, I should say. I know there are other athletes out here feeling this. I know there are young men out here feeling this. Now, how can I sort of pay forward the help and support and love that I've had through, much like Sanjay said, this community and all of my peers, and do my part to kind of return that favor.
Hey, I love the concept, Mark. Thanks of paying it forward. Lovely concept. I think we can use a lot of that in a lot of our lives in many aspects. So maybe I'll shift it a little bit more to, given we're approaching Father's Day, from a father's perspective, how do you approach the subject of mental health with your kids? Maybe Sanjay, I'll start with you. How do you approach them?
So I mean, it's important to be authentic. So it's not always like if your child asks you how are you today, and you've had a difficult day, it's not glossing over and saying, yeah, no, it was a great day. Well, it was fine. If you're struggling, you need to be authentic and model what it is that you would like to see from your children, right? I think as fathers, we all would like to see our children feel that they can approach us when they're going through difficulties. However, if we're always going to be like, strong and stoic, and never, showing any form of vulnerability, then when they're going through their difficulties, how is it that they're going to feel that you would be able to relate to what they're going through? So I think there's a need to model what it is that is required, like honest conversation, and yeah, I think that's the key. That's what I try to do anyways.
Oh, thanks, Sanjay. I really like that one. I love the authenticity you put into play here. And Mark, if I can put you a bit on the spot, you are, if I if it's fair to say to Sanjay and I, you're a bit younger than we are. That's neither a compliment or a denigration. It's just the sort of the calendar tells us that. So how are you approaching things with Miles?
Well, I appreciate that because I'm an old guy in the NHL and hockey term, so it's nice to be around you guys to make me feel youthful again. But certainly I'm in a different stage in parenthood and fatherhood. Miles is 2.5, and our daughter is 3 months old. And I really love what Sanjay said about open, honest, and frank. Maybe not discussions for me at this point, but expression. And also, I think. Something that I think about a lot is it's my duty and my responsibility to kind of instill these ideas of empathy and compassion and kindness in my son Miles. That's my job as a father. As proud as I am of Miles for being athletic and rough and tumble, I'm even more proud of him for being gentle and kind and caring, or as much as a 2.5-year-old can be. And I just think that's so important. And I think that's how we set up this next generation to kind of value these issues of mental health and be a part of the solution. And, one thing I will say is I have a really amazing wife and life partner, Tara. And something that I have really noticed her do that I just think is so cool and effective and that never would have come to me naturally is, when Miles is emotional or frustrated or throwing a tantrum, it's a 2-year-old's job to throw a tantrum. So he does that a lot, right? And she'll get down on his level and speak to him as almost like you're speaking to an adult and tell him it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to express your emotions. What's wrong? Tell me, use your words. And I just think that has really resonated with me and made me think and something that I think I can pull into my parenting style and hopefully, all of us can and maybe have a positive effect that way.
Really, really nice. I think I'll ask myself the same question a little bit. As you may have guessed, I think I did a lot of play with my boys, and you may have guessed, for those of you who are kind of in the know on certain things, they loved Star Wars. And so I joined them in the love for Star Wars. I got to admit, I don't love it as much as they do. But when your kids love something, you got to join in with them. So we would have, the Star Wars fights with the lightsabers, etc., all in fun. I do remember occasionally, as they got a little older, they would hit a little too hard, and they learned from that. By the way, don't hit your father too hard, because you're getting stronger. Dad's not quite there yet anymore, and you're getting faster. So yeah, all those interesting things they learn and the nuances with the play. What I kind of described before, but I had a lot of fun with them, and actually still do. I think we often think of our kids as little, but they remain our kids, and I'm happy they do. So thank you both. I thought I'd share a little bit as well. So thanks. And some of it was obvious on the screensaver anyway. So maybe I'll move on to another question. What about how do you guys think? And this is a tough one. How do we break the stigma? And you've answered a little bit already, and shift the perspective of viewing mental health as a weakness. You both kind of already implied some responses, but just wanted to give you an opportunity to see if there's anything more to add on that. And I already loved your responses to date. Maybe Sanjay, if we can start with you.
I think part of breaking the stigma around mental illnesses is having people be open and honest about their struggles. One thing I noted early on in my recovery is that there was nobody that I could really go to, that I could speak to, who had gone through a journey that I was about to start on, that I could ask, or to have maybe potentially hope that I could get to a certain point. I think there's this thing, like, even for those who have had it, even if they recover, they don't want to talk about it because it's considered to be still a taboo subject. I think there's more need for people to just be honest about the fact that mental illness is out there. It's not something that's restricted to just Bell Let's Talk month. We need to have this as an ongoing dialogue, sharing and somewhat normalizing having a mental illness is no different than having, say, other illnesses, be it cancer or what have you, right? It's it's equal, not less than in some way, shape, or form. And I think also, like, as a secondary part to it, we've started the conversations, but I think there's still a key component that's missing. And I kind of take it to the businesses, the industries, and what have you. When people have the courage to speak up and say that I'm struggling, I think it's imperative that, you know, companies be able to adapt to that feedback that they're struggling. I hear too often from people in various industries and from my own personal experience where if you say that you're struggling, there's little that is done, because guess what? You have a deadline to meet, and that deadline's not going to shift. And so I think you got to you have to have a little bit of meat, you know, behind. You're asking people to be honest and authentic, then you have to be able to adapt to that honesty and authenticity in that. So I think and if you do that, then I think you'll see that people will be far more open about their struggles because they'll feel like there is actual support out there.
Thanks, Sanjay. And Mark, you already answered this question very robustly, but I'll just say anything further to add, because I loved your previous answer that bleeded into this one in a beautiful way.
Thank you. And, you know, I think Sanjay hit so many great points. You know, I'm not going to add too much, but I guess I'll make my answer by commending him. I think the more men that we have who speak publicly about this and speak openly about this and are vulnerable about these issues, the more we can normalize these conversations and then in turn make other men more comfortable speaking about it. Kind of that strength in numbers idea, I think, for me, right? So again, you know, commend Sanjay and say, you know, the more of us, the more men we have who say, hey, it's okay to deal with this. I have dealt with it. I've struggled with it. I've come out on the other side, or I'm still dealing with it. The better it's going to be for all of us.
All right. Thanks, Mark. And here's a tricky question. I'm giving you guys some tough ones here, and I'll chime in as well at times. But any tips, Sanjay, for bringing up a concern for someone's well-being without having them feel either sort of brushed off or being accused of nagging them? So how do you bring things up with a colleague, a loved one, family member? Family member can be a loved one too, but it's not often completely correlated. Sorry, I just have to use a little humor at times, which is also kind of a men thing, although women are pretty good at humor too. Sorry, Sanjay.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I can only share from my own personal experience on it. So at some level, when you're going through such an illness, right? At some subconscious level, you know that something is not quite right, but you're still battling. You're still battling the good fight, hoping that, you know, you're going to somehow will your way through this. And whatever it is that you're experiencing at that time, whatever concerns that you may be having, they're very legitimate. They're very highlighted in your life at that moment in time. So for a loved one to approach you, it's a really delicate matter. I mean, it really requires a certain level of empathy. I think what happens on many times, and you know, most people are very caring, right? Like they see you in distress or they see you being challenged and they want to jump in and kind of solve it for you, right? But you can't really solve that. You can't rationalize, you know, when I'm experiencing something very profound that I can't quite get my head around, you diminishing what it is that I'm experiencing or telling me that I look like I'm struggling is a quick way to bring up a wall, right? Like at that moment in time, you're going to feel like you're being judged. You're being judged as something different or less than, and that's it. Communication is broken. And so what I think is really imperative is that, you know, you come at it from the point of view of empathy, right? That, you know, we talk, you know, it sounds like what you're experiencing is really hard right now. That's really tough what you're going through. And, you know, for the person who's experiencing the illness, they need to feel that you're standing with them kind of shoulder to shoulder, not across from them. And that it takes a lot of patience for the one, you know, who's who's trying to navigate those waters, you have to like show great sensitivity to the feelings that are happening. And, at some point, you can guide the conversation, but ultimately the need to get help has to come from the individual who's going through it. If you tell me that I need help, then guess what? I'm going to say, you're wrong. I don't need help. I'm going to double down that I don't need the help. But, as we talk about the feelings and the hardships, if that comes to my mind, wow, it'd be good to be able to share this with someone, then guess what? Then I'm going to follow through on that. So yeah, it's difficult waters to navigate for sure. But, in the end, empathy is what's key.
I like that one a lot, Sanjay. Mark, any thoughts on sort of that fine line, or not so fine a line always, but that caring versus nagging, if I can just put it simply?
Well, I think I have the bad luck of following a guy who's giving great answers. So he's stealing all my, I think he stole my notes here. So, but I'll just, I'll add to that. I think, and this is something I think I've needed to work on, and certainly my wife Tara's helping with this, is just listening. I think sometimes someone just wants to be heard. And I think, this idea of being heard, or, this belief of being heard, can legitimize a lot of the emotions and feelings that you're having. So sometimes just sitting back and being a sounding board might be a great first step.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Really valuable add-on, that listening piece. So thank you. That's a really important concept. I probably end up doing a bit more of it than you do. So I'll just tell you, both of your answers are just fantastic, because the listening piece, really important, coming from a place of empathy or caring, or whatever word you want to use. People do, I agree with you, Sanjay, have some sense that something is not right, whether it's right in the front of their brain or somewhere in the back. They do have a sense of it. And if you come from a place of, as you state, empathy, that can be heard, not always right away, but sometimes people actually feel that, or sense that no one noticed. So a caring person saying, hey, I'm noticing something, just wanted to check in with you, or whatever word you use is great. And I often tell people, don't let me help you script your words. You know the person better than anyone else. Just come from a place of caring and empathy, and you're going to do fine. Don't script it with someone else's words. You know your relationships better than anyone else. So thank you both for some great answers to that. I think we're doing well on time, but I think we're going to go to some questions that are coming in. Let me have a quick check, and I'll start us off in just a second. So let's see what I've got here coming in. So, and please send in through the chat box any questions you may have. So I've got one here, and let's see. I will be a new father in July. I'll throw in a congratulations there, although I'm sure it's scary. But here's the question: how can I prepare mentally for any challenges ahead? Great question, especially given the topic. So the challenges ahead, if I might start maybe this time with Mark, you're a little closer to the new father thing, although I must say I remember it well. But Mark, let's start with you on that one. How did you prepare, and any lessons learned, and how would you prepare differently? However you want to answer that question would be great.
Yeah, first off, I'll add a congrats too. I hope it's July 12th. It's a pretty good birthday. It's fine. So maybe that'll be the lucky day. But first off, I'll say it's going to be the best day of your life. It's going to be an emotional roller coaster, and embrace that. Embrace the uncertainty. Embrace some of these challenges that are going to come. There's no expectation on you to be perfect. And I know, for a lot of us who are involved dads, you put expectations on yourselves. I have to do everything perfect. I have to put my son perfectly or daughter perfectly every time. You're going to have off days. I think it's important for you and your partner to give yourselves some grace. Realize that parenting is tough. Being a new parent is tough. But everything's going to happen just like it should, and you're going to do an awesome job. Have a little confidence, and just embrace that challenge.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I like that one a lot. Yeah, it's not as predictable as people tend to think, and it's not right from the books. Sanjay, any thoughts? from your end?
Now I know how Mark felt when I went first. No, he nailed it with all his points there. Definitely. I mean, you just have to enjoy that special period in life, right? When you have, your child is such a special time. And yeah, I mean, don't worry about making mistakes. I mean, it's part of the journey, and yeah, just enjoy it.
Okay, I like that one. Thanks. And you know what? I have zero to add to you guys. So I have the pleasure of not having to go. Well, I have to go after you guys, but I also can just do the executive decision of not answering. So I will take that prerogative on this one. So I have a tough one that comes in. This one's a bit more sensitive. I get that. And yeah, I didn't want to leave it till the end of our conversation because it's an important question. So someone's put in the chat, I've been dealing with suicidal thoughts and actually a lot, and I keep trying to take my mind off it. Any tips in that regard? I'll be happy to chime in, but Sanjay, any thoughts on that one? Start with you.
Well, I mean, first off, I'm really sorry that they're having those thoughts, and I can totally relate. At the heights of my illness, I mean, I had suicidal ideation as well, and all I would say is I would encourage that reach out for help. I think when you get to that juncture where you're having those kinds of thoughts, there's no harm in reaching out to someone that you trust, whomever that may be, and just saying that, I'm struggling a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that, and yeah, that's what I would encourage.
Yeah, thanks, Sanjay. Mark, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'll echo a couple of things that Sanjay said. I've been fairly open with some of my struggles with obsessive compulsive disorder, and certainly one of those manifestations has been in the past, dark, persistent thoughts that were alarming. And I think it's important to know that you're not the only one dealing with this. And despite how it may feel or seem, there are people out there who love you and want to help you. It may be a family member, it may be a friend, it may be a professional, a mental health professional who you don't know right now. But there are people out there who want to help you, who love you and care for you, and want to give you the resources to deal with it. And like Sanjay said, please reach out to someone.
Yeah, I like those two answers a lot. And maybe I'll echo one of the things that was said earlier on. I think it was Sanjay who mentioned it. I think the reach out is really important, and reach out to someone you're comfortable with, you want to reach out to. Absolutely no harm. And actually, I encourage reach out professionally. It could be family doctor, as often the primary sort of medical provider. Nurse practitioners are out there now more and more. We do have crisis lines that are actually really good. People, I think, hesitate a bit. Crisis lines are excellent. And when thoughts turn into things that are a bit more persistent and more urgent, there's nothing wrong with the emergency room. I know people tend to shy away, but their emergency rooms are there for a reason. So don't shy away from reaching out. The very fact that the question was asked tells me there's already a bit of a reach out looking for some thoughts, and I really wish you well. People do get better. Thank you, Sanjay. I hope you don't mind me emphasizing it, that you openly said that that's something that did happen during the course of sort of your trajectory, and that you're here talking about things now, and that's not the case. So things do change.
Absolutely.
Not something that has to stay with you. So thank you both for that, and best to the person who sent that in, and please do reach out. Another one, actually a very timely one and hot off the press. So this one just came in, and one of my favorites, but I'm really interested in your guys' thoughts as well, because no one has the answer to this. So no pressure on any of us on this one. So would you consider a video gaming community a good source of confidence for the men in our lives? And then it goes on, is face-to-face communication encouraged more than an online community? Very interesting question and very apropos these days. Mark, you want to start off with that? You'll be facing that, well, not yet, but maybe, yeah, later.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not a video game player. I'm not particularly familiar, with those communities. But I think the big thing for me is who am I to place constraints on what a community is or isn't. If it's people who you feel are trustworthy, who you have some shared experience with, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting helpful advice from other people in that situation. I think it's important, to maybe make sure you're getting the proper advice, however you may define that. And I think in that instance, I'll probably defer to your expertise as a medical professional.
Thanks, Mark. Sanjay, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, community comes in many different forms, and I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with an online community. It's just another form of communication, with other individuals who share a common interest, right? Like, whether it be online or, going out to a restaurant or a pub and talking about sports, right? It's about sharing, common interests and creating a sense of connection. And, that can, be a form then upon which you can, share feelings. So yeah, I don't see any harm in it.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll throw in my 2 cents as well. I love one of the words you use there in particular. I love many of the words, but one in particular, and that's connection. And so we all need connection. We do know that in general, I always stress in general, but as a broad group, men are less connected with individuals than women. Men don't form as many social connections as women. I would say, though, you do need a bit of a balance, and you can't even say online community because there are many different ones. So you can't just categorize, but go to credible, reasonable, do some homework, be a little bit cautious on that too. So there are good forums, bad forums, and I'm not an expert on that. I do, however, encourage certainly a reasonable amount and a balanced approach to face-to-face. I'm a big fan of technology in terms of our ability to communicate, especially through the pandemic, through various means that we now have. In fact, we're doing it now. So it's obviously helpful. However, those personal interactions face-to-face where you learn the nonverbal cues and all the subtleties you get in terms of how close to be to someone, how not close to be, is also really important. So I encourage people to get out there and actually get involved with physical activities, physically meeting with people. Good old, I think a lot of us have been missing that over the past while. It's coming back. Oh, give your friends a hug or a handshake or whatever it is you do, a high five. And that personal connection can actually matter a lot. So find that balance. I wouldn't ban anything, but I'd be really cautious of going too far in a direction that takes away our face-to-face, personal, physical connections with others. So many ways to do that as well. So I will stop there on that one. Love the question, by the way, so keep them coming in. We don't have time for too many more. Let me just find another one that seems to be percolating. Oh, here's one that has come up a couple of times, and it's a tough one. For what it's worth, you guys out there and gals out there, I don't know if I'm allowed to use those terms. Everyone in the audience out there, thank you for all your questions. So what is the root cause of mental health problems? Is it the absence of love within our family, the type of food we eat nowadays, lack of connectivity with our community, and lack of exercise, possibly root causes of mental health issues? I'm going to start off that one because that's a really loaded question. And I'm going to like our panelists' thoughts on it, but I'm going to start off with, you know what, all of those components that are mentioned, I'll take them one at a time. Yeah, connection to family, proper nutrition, I'll put it that way, the connectedness we have with one another and our community, and then physical exercise. I love the way that's been framed, but I would say none of them are, if I may be so bold to say, are root causes. But I think if you take care of those aspects of your life, you will be more prone to, have better mental health and be more resilient when challenges come. So I love the question. I just reframe it in terms of, I'm not sure we have a root cause, but I think we have many things that contribute. So the more you can do, diet, exercise, sleep, and many of what we've been talking about today, especially connectedness, can matter a lot. And I think I missed a few. So Mark's complained about going second or third, so I'll go to Mark next. Mark, any thoughts on what I missed or anything to add? Or
No, maybe I'll flip the question on its head a little bit and offer those as solutions. So maybe working backwards, if physical activity, if nutrition, if sleep, if human connection are things that seem to mitigate or resolve a mental health issue you have, maybe you're honing in a little more on what a cause may be for you in your particular circumstance.
thanks. I like that. I like flipping it on its head. Excellent. Thank you. I may use that sometime if that's okay. If you haven't copyrighted it. So,
I wouldn't be expecting royalties on that answer. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I mean, it's an interesting question. It's a question maybe perhaps I may have asked myself on a number of occasions. But sometimes things just happen, like physiologically, they just happen. I mean, we don't question the individual who gets cancer. What did you do to deserve cancer? It just sometimes happens. And the things that were described, as both of you have mentioned, those are things that can help you, better in coping with the situation when illness arises.
Yeah, like that. Thank you. Thank you both. We still have lots of questions coming in, but I do want to be also very respectful of our time. And so I think I'd like to start off by letting people know we do have some resources there. So make sure you reach out to some of the resources we have put into our platform. Very important. I would like to emphasize one of the comments made previously, I think it was Sanjay. I don't think this should be a once a year type of conversation. We tend to do this on Father's Day. And those of you who've heard me speak before, I think we don't talk enough about men and connectedness and how we provide services more tailor-made to men in general. So I hope we continue these conversations on an ongoing basis. So a couple other things before we close. I do want you to just look at under the video player, and that is where, just to be more specific, there are some resources for our audience to feel free to download and share. A very special thank you to our sponsor, TD, and to all of our speakers throughout the year, and especially to our speakers and panelists today. Absolutely great answers. Love them, and I hope it's been helpful to everyone. And also a big thank you to the audience for taking the time to join us this evening and for tolerating the technical glitches and watching us work as a team to make sure we got through it well, showing our resilience in that regard. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the seasons of conversations at the Royal. Take care, everyone.